cats, welcome to the last chat about that of 2020. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the highs and lows of 2020 and what I'm hoping happens in 2021. Let's just get straight into this episode. I am so happy that 2020 is ending. I'm recording this before New Year's, and by the time you listen to this, it'll already be 2021 and beyond. And I know that so many people had a horrible year. I've already talked about this in this podcast a couple of times, but 2020 sucked. Like, it really was just a shit show. It was a dumpster fire, and I'm so excited that it's over. So like I said in the intro, I want to talk about the highs and lows, because although, yes, this was a complete dumpster fire of a year, there were some good things that happened. I think we'll start off talking about the crappy things, and then we'll go into the good things, because I don't want to, talk about all the cool things and then be like, this year sucked, all this, we couldn't travel, we couldn't do anything. I don't want to end the episode and the year out with, me being depressing. So let's just go in. I have a list of things, and I'm sure that there's a lot more. This is just based on what I've observed and experienced. I know, I wasn't somebody who had to cancel their wedding. I didn't really have that many travel plans anyway, so there wasn't huge life things that I had to completely cancel because of COVID. So my experience with 2020 is going to be different than some other people's. Let's just start off with the obvious, COVID. Back in January, we all thought that this was going to blow over. We really didn't think that this was going to be a big deal. Looking back literally a year ago, I was just talking with my boyfriend, a year ago, I'm recording this on the 20th of December. We were yeah, the COVID's gonna be in Europe or just be in China, and it's not gonna come over here. It's not gonna be a big deal. So in January, we were all so excited, and for the year, 2019 wasn't the worst year, but there were some hard things that happened. And I was really looking forward to 2020. It was the start of this new era. And in the beginning of the year, we were thinking that's going to be the last year that Donald Trump is president. We'll get into that later. But, we were kind of just going into 2020 thinking that this was going to be an exciting year. And it just, again, turned out to be a complete shit show. So obviously COVID, awful, not just the fact that we had to be social distancing, we had to lock down, we had to cancel plans, and we had to basically change our entire lives. In my lifetime, I've never experienced a pandemic like this. I know older generations have experienced similar things like this, but this is the first time in my lifetime and so many people's lifetimes that they've had to social distance and had to completely be locked down. And I'm mainly speaking of America and more established countries. I can't speak for every country, but this is the first time that the entire world has basically been shut down, in my lifetime. So, just starting the year thinking it's going to be, COVID is just going to blow over, and it didn't. And it still hasn't. It still hasn't resolved, although the vaccine is coming. I'm going to talk about that too, but we've had to completely change the way that we live. And, with lockdown, I didn't really have big travel plans for 2020, but my friends and I were thinking about doing a 4th of July trip. We were, I was probably going to go up to New York again with my friend Megan, and in February I was able to see Wicked in Baltimore, which was really fun. But, we like to go to New York. I always go to Salem. The past couple of years I've been to Salem with my friend Brian, and last year we brought my friend Adrian and my boyfriend. I was really excited to go this year, and so those were canceled. So I didn't have a ton of travel plans, but there were some things that I do every year that I wasn't able to do this year. And I know I'm not the only person. My boyfriend goes to a lot of conventions. All of them were canceled, from March on. And I have some other friends who like to travel abroad. And, my friend Adrian, she goes abroad every other year with her friend, and she wasn't able to do that. I'm just speaking from my experience and my friends' experiences and people that I know, but that was just so shitty that we couldn't do any of that stuff. And not just traveling, but being locked down. And, once restrictions kind of lifted a little bit, I had more freedom to go to local restaurants that had outdoor seating and limited number of people. I was able to do that a couple of times, obviously very safe. All of the restaurants that I went to were outside, And again, limited number of people, limited seating. You had to wear masks if you went inside to go to the bathroom. All the wait staff was wearing masks, and you had to wear a mask until your food got there. And if you were not eating, you wear your mask and things like that. So I'm grateful that restaurants were able to stay open because of outdoor seating. And I think, I'm not going to get into this too much, but I think with the lockdown and when restrictions lifted, I think if you're going to go to a park or you're going to go to an outdoor restaurant with limited seating, or you're going to, walk around, I live near DC, so I walked around DC a couple times, obviously wearing masks the whole time, but I think outdoor activities increased. I love to go to concerts every year, and, I was going to go see Kesha. I wanted to see, a bunch of people this year, and those all got canceled. And I loved last year. I went to the Jingle Ball in DC, and that was so fun. That was canceled. I mean, they did a virtual event, which, I'll talk about those kinds of things later, but not just the fact that we couldn't physically go to do things that we wanted to do, but that we had to be inside and be locked down. And, if you're somebody who lives in a home or, has a backyard or has a porch or things like that, I'm grateful that I live near my parents, and, I was able to go there and we could eat outside and enjoy outside activities. But I live in a studio apartment. So for the most part, the entirety of 2020, I've been in my studio apartment, and I don't really get to go outside as much as I like to. And it's just been really difficult. And in my first episode of the podcast, I talked about the struggles of, what I've been feeling during COVID and things like that. So if you want more insights into that, you can listen to the first episode of Chat About That. But, it's just, there's been so many things that we've had to change. And I think a lot of good has come from this too, which I'll get into later. But just quarantining and all of that kind of stuff is just, it's been really difficult. So obviously that sucks. Another thing that sucked was I lost my job in March. I have since, gotten a new job, but I'm not the only person who lost their job during COVID. Some people, I'm lucky enough to have, not have spent the entirety of 2020 unemployed, but I know some people lost their jobs early on and are still unemployed. And that just has really messed up the economy and messed up the way people live. And I know that a lot of people were getting evicted and, their water was getting shut off, and a lot of places were not accommodating to people losing their jobs or not being able to, pay their bills as often and things like that. So I'm personally very lucky that my apartment complex was very accommodating and is still very accommodating to people's needs. But not every place is like that. Another thing that's awful is just the way, and I will say not everybody is doing this, but there have been a lot of people who have been very hard on essential workers. Now there's a big portion of people, I'm not going to say that the entirety of the universe is like this, because there's been so much love shown for essential workers, but the amount of shit that essential workers have had to put up with during COVID is just ridiculous. Whether it be restaurant workers or grocery store workers, essential business workers in general, healthcare, teachers, delivery drivers, just people like that have had to work 110% because the world can't live without their Amazon packages and things like that. And, we still have to go to the grocery store. We still have to get gas. We still have to go to the hospital and think. I had to go to the hospital during COVID, and it was a very pleasant experience, actually. And the staff there was absolutely phenomenal. It's just really been shitty on so many workers. And I know that there have been so many people who are essential workers who have completely had to social distance from their families. Nurses or doctors or just any essential person has had to, maybe live in a different place or sleep in a completely different wing of their house because they really can't interact with their family. And it's really sad. And there's been so much with the isolation, not just loneliness and depression and anxiety, but it's just been really hard on so many people. Another thing that really sucked about this year was Chadwick Boseman's passing. I know that doesn't really have anything to do with COVID, but it did happen in 2020. He's not the only celebrity, and also obviously not the only person who passed away. There's just been so many deaths this year, and it's so sad. So many people were not able to spend the holidays with their families, and just thinking about how many people were not at the Thanksgiving table, how many people are not going to be celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or any holidays because so many people passed away. It's just really sad. And I think we need to, moving forward, once we get the vaccine and once things go back to normal, we need to still remember these people. Another horrible thing about this year has been all of the mistreatment of people in the Black community and the minority communities, and all of the riots and protesting and just the horrible mistreatment of them. And I did an entire episode on this, on the Black Lives Matter movement and everything that was going on this year. as well as information about all of the stupid shit that J.K. Rowling was talking about in regards to the trans community and her just ignorance about all of that. And so I'm not going to go into all of that in this episode, but if you want to know my thoughts on that, please check out that episode. That's just another awful, awful thing that happened this year. Another thing that sucked just for me, I know we've talked a lot about really important things that sucked, but movies. I was really excited to go see a bunch of movies in the theater, and I know you can rent theaters out right now, which is cool, and they've been drive-thrus, and I did a whole episode on drive-thru movies if you want to listen to that too. I feel like this episode is just me plugging other episodes, but I was really excited to go see movies. I really wanted to see Wonder Woman in the theaters. I know, again, they are doing limited screenings and you can rent the theaters out and stuff like that. But I just, in general, like, I don't want to go and sit and watch a movie with a mask on. Like, I have nothing against wearing a mask. I'm not an anti-masker. I don't want to get on the rant about people not wearing masks because I will just be talking for 40 minutes just about that. But I think if I'm going to sit and watch a movie, I don't really want to sit in a theater, even if it's rented out. I don't want to sit in a theater and wear a mask for like 3 hours. It's just not something that I want to do. So if I'm not willing to do that, then I need to stay home and suck it up and not watch those movies in the theater. You know, if I'm just going to say it, if you're not willing to wear the mask, then you should not be going places where you have to wear a mask. That's what I'm going to say. I think another thing that was really shitty is, again, on the mask point, I know I just said I'm not going to spend 40 minutes talking about it, but the amount of people who have been so selfish about wearing masks, and I have nothing against talking about this, like, I just don't understand what the big deal is wearing the mask. It's literally a cloth over your face. Doctors and nurses have been doing it forever. You can wear a freaking mask when you go outside, when you go to the grocery store. It is literally protecting yourself from the virus. You're also helping protect other people, but you are protecting yourself. So if you are against protecting yourself and you are against keeping yourself healthy, then just stay home. If you're not willing to wear the mask, if you're not going to follow the rules, just don't go anywhere. You have no right to be going anywhere. That's just, I'm going to get off the soapbox now because I'm going to get angry. So those are the main horrible things about 2020 that I wanted to talk about. I know there's more, but those were just like the main things that came to mind. And now I want to talk about the good things that happened in 2020. Mostly will just be about myself, but these were some positive things about 2020. There were a lot of amazing albums that came out in 2020. I am a musician. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I was just so happy that people were still releasing music this year. And I am going to just talk about Taylor Swift completely in a little bit. Again, I also had an entire episode just talking about her Folklore album. I was going to do an episode on Evermore, but I thought I would just include that in this episode. Some of my favorite albums that came out this year were Future Nostalgia by Dua Lipa, that was released in March. Manic by Halsey, that was released in January. Chromatica by Lady Gaga, that was released in May. Rare by Selena Gomez, that was released in January. And Plastic Hearts by Miley Cyrus, that was released in December. There were just amazing albums that came out this year, and again, let's just go into Taylor Swift. She took COVID as a way to create new music. And I could do an episode on Taylor Swift. I'm going to, in general, do a whole episode just on Taylor Swift. But I could do one all about Evermore. But I will just shorten it and say, you know, she was someone who took COVID as an opportunity to create new music and to think outside the box of what she's done. And she put out Folklore. And after she put out Folklore, she couldn't stop writing music and she wanted to release more songs. And then she put out Evermore. The creativity, and I this is a good segue into my next point, the creativity that people have had during lockdown has been really cool. And another artist, these are just the ones that I've been following. I'm sure there's a lot of other artists and people in general that are doing this, but Charlie Puth has also been doing a lot of really cool stuff. He is staying with his parents in New Jersey. At least that's the last that I heard. He could have moved by now, but for the most part in lockdown, I believe he's still there. He's been staying with his family in New Jersey in his childhood bedroom, and he literally just has like a setup of like basically like a music studio in his bedroom, and he's been creating music. He's been posting about it on Instagram and TikTok and things like that, and I think the creativity that people have had has been really cool. I know back in the beginning of lockdown, I was seeing a lot of stuff on TikTok. Families would do like themed dinners. So, the one night you had to come to dinner dressed like Harry Potter characters or Disney characters and things like that. So people have just been doing like really clever and creative things to get by in lockdown. And I mean, I'm not a parent, but if I was in high school, if this was happening when me and my sister were in high school, we would probably need things to entertain ourselves. The creativity has just been really cool. And I think showcasing that kind of creativity and, how you're getting by, showing that off on the internet I think that's just been really fun. Another thing, I know this is like really petty of me, but there was no Coachella this year. I think Coachella is like really stupid. Now, I will say the music aspect of it, how there's concerts, I can get behind. I think that's awesome. But the whole concept of it just being people going to the desert and getting wasted and doing drugs and like the aesthetic of it, and it's all about the pictures and getting clicks on your videos, and it's just like you're just trying to like show off that you went to Coachella. It's also just like super expensive to go in, and I'm not going to go into a rant about how much I hate it, but there was no Coachella this year, and I was very very happy because I hate seeing the people's pictures. Like, it's just stupid. Like, I don't get it. I don't like it. Again, nothing wrong with music festivals. Music festivals are pretty cool, but Coachella specifically, I don't like. So I'm very glad that there was no Coachella. On the theme of concerts, there's been so many online events and performances. I just watched one the other day. BB Rexa did an online concert. Halsey did one. Kesha did one. I know Billie Eilish and Dua Lipa had online concerts. The Jingle Ball was online this year. I think that the artists have had a lot more freedom with their performances. When I was watching like the MTV Music Awards and Billboard and things like that, the way that they can use more like sets and make it really more of a production for their performances. Because if you've watched performances like the Grammys and things like that, they do have set pieces and it is a production, but you're kind of limited to what you can do on stage. But now there's so much more that those artists can do because they are live performances, but they're filmed beforehand. So there's more editing that can go into it. There's more I think there's a lot more creativity. So I think that the creativity with like music and things like that have been really cool. And I've been really interested in watching any like online concerts. I know some artists have had you had to pay to see their online concerts, which I get. They got to make money. That their music is their livelihood. They have to make money. Nothing against that. But me, I don't really want to pay for like an online concert. That's why, I was watching like the free ones and stuff. But I think that's been really cool. And Disney, they did like 2 specials of it. It's on Disney Plus. You can watch both of them. But they did this like Disney sing-along a couple times. And that was really cool. People were just recording those in their homes. And there was another charity event that went on that had a bunch of artists singing from their homes. And I think that kind of stuff that kept people entertained was really cool this year. And I kind of hope that some of that stuff transfers over once the vaccine is out and things go back to normal. I kind of hope that these online concerts and, these sing-alongs and things like that are keeping people entertained continue to happen. Another awesome thing, which I did an episode on this as well, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris winning the election. Don't want to get super political. I already talked about it in my episode, but that is just like so great. We can end 2020 knowing that at least 2021 is going to be better in that sense. Again, if you want to hear my opinions on all of that, go listen to that episode. Not here to get political on this episode, but go check out that one if you want to hear more about that. But that is just that was great. I'm going in the order of what I have on my list, so these aren't top of mind right now. It's just the order of my list. Another awesome thing that I have not done an episode on, but I will do very soon, is I got my blue tongue skink Gizmo. We had a dog when I was growing up. Her name was Joy. She was a golden retriever. But I've never had like my own pet. That was our family pet, and my sister has a dog, but I've never purchased and cared for my own pet. And I'm very excited about having Gizmo. I'm thinking about getting another animal. I don't know which one. But I've been very happy to have her. She's just brought me so much joy. And it's just nice to have a pet. I don't know. If you have the means to have a pet, go for it. but if you don't, no need. But I had the means, and I love having a little pet. It's very fun. So that has been very fun for me. Another great thing, and I don't want to get too mushy and I won't go into it because it's very personal, but I did celebrate my 1-year anniversary with my boyfriend, which was really nice. So I'm very happy about that. Baby Yoda, Grogu, The Mandalorian. I know that came out last year, but season 2 came out this year. We finally learned Baby Yoda's name, Grogu. The season finale just came out a couple days ago, and it's so good. I have been meaning to do an episode just on The Mandalorian, but I think I'll save that for a couple weeks from now. And now that there's 2 seasons out, I think I can talk about it a little bit more. So I do want to do just an episode on The Mandalorian, but that brought me so much joy. Baby Yoda literally brought me so much joy from last year all the way through here. So freaking cute. I have the Grogu doll. I have a Funko Pop of him, and I also have a little 3D printed version of him because I really wanted the Funko Pop. It wasn't out yet. My boyfriend got me a little mini 3D printed Grogu, which is so freaking cute. And I literally painted him too. I'm looking at it right now. I painted him when he's like drinking the soup. If you've watched it, you know what I'm talking about. But I love The Mandalorian. I love Star Wars, and that just brought me so much joy this year. If you haven't watched Mandalorian, watch it. Disney Plus, I think you can get a free trial of it. I know a lot of people were doing free trials watching Mandalorian and then canceling it. You will go watch The Mandalorian in any way, any means that you can. That's all I'm going to say about that, but watch The Mandalorian. It's so good. Even if you're not really into Star Wars, I would watch it because you really don't have to know anything about the other movies to understand it. Yeah, there's some character crossover and stuff like that, but in general, you don't really have to understand everything about Star Wars to like The Mandalorian. So check it out if you can. What's next on my list? So I did actually go on a ski trip in January. I went on that with my friends. So before COVID, I don't want anybody coming at me saying that I wasn't social distancing because I am. But the ski trip was in January, so it was before lockdown and everything. That was super fun. I wasn't able to go in 2018, so that was my first ski trip with my friends, and it was super fun. Skiing was horrible. I freaking hated it. That sucked. But the skis that I had were like, they were too tight, and I didn't know that until like later, and my feet were like literally killing me. Like I thought my legs were broken. I literally thought I was gonna have to go to the hospital, and then I switched the size and it was fine. But at that point, like I didn't like skiing. Like regardless of my feet hurting, I just like did not enjoy the experience, but I wanted to go. Also our place had a hot tub, so I soaked the next day because my legs were literally killing me. I soaked like the next day. I was literally in the hot tub for like 4 hours. Super fun. That was a great trip. Super fun. What else is on my list? I got a new job. That was fun. Still fun. I don't know why I wrote this down. I think my boyfriend told me to write this down. One day when we were in DC, again, outdoors, wearing masks the whole time. We were in DC. We saw a man walking around with a corgi in his backpack, and just the head of the corgi was sticking out of the backpack, and it was so freaking cute. I got a picture of it. My boyfriend told me to talk about that. So, honey, you're welcome for talking about that on the episode. We called it Backpack Corgi. Super cute. Definitely highlight. We got some free money from the government. Now, I know this is a controversial topic, so I'm not going to go too into it. But we did get some free money from the government, so thank you. However, I'll just say that I don't think it was enough, and I don't think that the amount of money that they gave us was the best. I'm appreciative of any money that the government, any money that anyone wants to give me, I'm fine with. I'm gonna take it. But I'll just say I think we could have gotten more. And I know that some talks have been going on with the next round of checks. I know some people think everybody should be getting $2,000 a month, and again, not gonna go super political, but we did get free money from the government, so I'm not gonna complain. Just, I think, I just think maybe we could have got some more. Also, some people, like, just got their checks. I know mine was, like, a month or 2 months delayed, but some people, like, just got those checks, and those were issued in, I think, like, May or sometime in the summer. I don't know what was going on with that. That's crazy. We did get free money from the government. Creative ways to get by in lockdown. I talked about that. Just reading my list. Tiger King. I was gonna do a whole episode on Tiger King, but I started my podcast, like, a month or so after it came out, and, like, the hype of Tiger King kind of died down. I don't know. I didn't think it was going to be that as interesting as people, if I had started the podcast like when Tiger King came out, I think I could have popped on the bandwagon, but I was a little too late. Tiger King was freaking crazy. I really hope that more documentaries come out that are just whack like that. I did watch one. It's not new. There was one about like the world of cat shows, which is absolutely nuts. So I think documentaries that highlight specific hobbyists and that kind of groups of people are really interesting, and I would like to see more. And Tiger King was just like whack. Like, I know that they're in talks of doing like a movie of Tiger King, which I just don't really think that's necessary, but that was crazy. That was really entertaining. That was like a month of just absolutely nuts, absolute craziness. So if you haven't watched it, I know some of my friends don't want to watch it because they're upset about the animal abuse, and I'm not saying that Joe Exotic or anybody that's like running those businesses are good or what, I'm not gonna like get into it, but I will acknowledge that yes, there is animal abuse, and I feel bad for those animals, and I hope that those animals are doing better, because I do not agree with animal cruelty in any way. But the entire just the whole concept of it was absolutely whack, and the whole Carole Baskin killing her husband thing, or allegedly killing her husband thing, is just ridiculous. And I've watched a couple other like documentaries just on that, and just crazy. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I am very big into true crime, so I do want to do a couple true crime series or couple episodes on true crime, and I do want to talk about Carole Baskin and Don Lewis, and that will probably be coming next year. I have Sims on here. I play The Sims. I know a lot of people don't consider The Sims to be like a gaming, like you're not really a gamer if you play The Sims. Like, I don't care. Like, I just play The Sims because it's fun. It's brought me a lot of joy. It's very creative. I love building houses. I love creating Sims, and I love just doing little storylines and things like that. It's a creative outlet for me. So I'm glad that I had something to keep me busy and keep me entertained while I was unemployed. So Sims is really fun. Not gonna say I'm like a gamer girl, because like the politics of that is like so stupid, but I enjoy The Sims, and I know that there's a lot of other games that came out. There's a couple games that came out that are not available for Mac, and I have Macs, but hopefully in 2021 they'll be released in Mac, and then I can play them. Just games and things that kept me entertained. I was very excited about. Nature. People have really gotten into going outside, and like I mentioned, people have been going to a lot of parks and just taking walks and just really taking advantage of things like that to keep them entertained. And, I went to a couple parks and walked around DC, and I'm lucky enough to have DC and be able to go walk around, safely walk around DC, and obviously wearing masks. But just a lot of people have been going hiking more and going camping in, areas where obviously it's safe and everything. But people have just been really communing with nature a lot more, and I think that's really cool. There was a lot right when lockdown was like really crazy before things were open again. People weren't driving as much, so I think the air was a lot cleaner. There wasn't as much pollution, and I think in the general, and I talked about this early on, that the world every so often like resets itself, and I think that COVID has helped kind of clean up the earth in a sense with pollution and things like that. So I guess that's a positive thing. I would like to see, once COVID is resolved, I would like to see how the world was, like the environment was impacted. I think that would be a really interesting thing to learn about. And I did mention this earlier, but I do want to end the podcast talking about the vaccine. The vaccine has been given out to, I'm not sure the numbers of how many people have been actually given the vaccine, but I think the military is going to be getting it in like February. I think, again, I'm not entirely sure. Don't quote me on this. I feel that the general public is definitely going to get the vaccine starting in early 2021. So that's really exciting. I know that in March, when lockdown was happening and people were starting to work on a vaccine, I remember my family and other people were talking about how the vaccine was not going to be ready for a year. And March, I'll say, like, the lockdown and all the craziness happened starting in March of this year. And I think March is going to be like the time where we're starting to get the vaccine. So it really was a year before we had a vaccine. And that's just how it works. We're not at the point, we're not like at Star Wars level of technology where we can just like snap our fingers and make a vaccine, or in Star Trek where they just like put a little machine over your face and they tell you what's wrong with you. We're not at that level of technology. But the fact that we could make a vaccine in a year is very impressive. I'm not knocking that at all. It's crazy that we're getting so close to the general public having access to this vaccine. And I'm very hopeful and I'm very excited about that. And I want to end this episode just saying thank you to all the essential workers, whoever they are. I know I mentioned, delivery drivers and grocery store workers and teachers and nurses and doctors and just anybody who's an essential employee. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for us and everything that you've ever done for us. I think a lot of people are acting like they're just now becoming heroes, but they've always been heroes. Essential workers are the backbone of this society. The working class people are the backbone of America and of any functioning society. And I just want to say thank you so much. Your efforts are not unnoticed. I have family members who are nurses. I have family members who are teachers, and I have friends who are essential workers, and their efforts are not going unnoticed. And I think that if you're somebody who's been really hard on them, just take a step back and put yourself in their shoes and think, how would your life be affected because of this? I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you've done and everything that you're continuing to do for us. To end this on a little bit of a happy note, because I know I just got a little sappy there. 2020 is ending. I'm not sure what day I'm going to release this podcast, but it's going to be before the new year. And I'm so freaking excited that 2020 is over. 2021 is going to be great. I know it. I just have a feeling. There's so many good things to look forward to, and I know that a lot of shitty things have happened this year, but there have been some good things. I hope that this episode gave some insight. I hope that it's inspired you to go listen to some of those albums, or, go take a walk, or thank an essential worker, or wear a freaking mask, because you really need to wear a mask. Just because the vaccine is out doesn't mean you can stop wearing a freaking mask. You can't stop wearing a mask until the CDC says that it's safe to stop wearing one. I don't make the rules. You gotta wear a mask. Okay? If I was gonna make the rules, you'd still have to wear a mask, but wear a freaking mask. So 2020 is ending, 2021 coming up. It's gonna be a good year. Thank you so much again to all the essential workers. Thank you again to all of my listeners. I really appreciate. I think we have 13 countries that have been listening to this podcast, which is so crazy. Just thank you for everyone who's listened, for who's supported me, who's given me ideas for episodes. I'm so grateful for all of that. I'm so happy that I was able to start this podcast this year. That's another awesome thing. I've always wanted to start a podcast, and I'm so happy with the response that I've gotten from people. I know that this podcast is not, the biggest thing ever. I know that I don't have like millions of people listening, but anybody and everybody who is listening to this, I'm so grateful. And 2021 is going to be really exciting. I have a lot of cool episodes planned. I'm hoping that I can have some guests once it's safe to have more people over. I do want to have some guests on. My sister has a couple topics. She's a teacher. She wants to talk about some teaching things. I have a friend who's a marine biologist. I want to have her come on. I have a friend who works at NASA. I want to have him come on. I want to talk about some like NASA conspiracy theories. I have some really cool friends and really cool people that I want to talk to. And also thinking about potentially filming my podcast too, because I know on YouTube, I do have a YouTube channel. Let's just chat about that. It's just the audio. I'm thinking about getting a setup where I can actually film my podcast and then have you guys watch it too. So that's something that I'm thinking about doing for 2021, and I think that would be really fun. So I have a lot planned, and I'm just so thankful for everybody who's listened to the podcast this year. Again, please thank an essential worker and wear a mask and have a very happy new year and stay safe, stay classy, and I will chat again with you soon. Goodbye.